Yeah, the thing about this sequence, the Raise the Alarm is actually a net neutral mana usage with Venerated Luxodon. I would have liked to maybe have seen the General Bazaari come down this turn, because next turn you get to go Knight of the Ebon Legion off your 1 black mana into Raise the Alarm off your 2 plains, and then you get to do a full-powered Venerated Luxodon and have the same amount of power attacking if you want to do some attacks.
Sure.
But the full power Venerated Luxodon seems pretty important, and unless he's able to draw a black mana source, he's not going to be able to do it. It's minor, right? It's very minor, but it's something that could come up.
Saw a Growth Spiral from Ichikawa. The spell is in hand, Brazen Borrower, Wilderness Reclamation, and there's a Ketria Triumph to cycle. Ichikawa really going in the tank about this decision, deems this pretty important.
All right, seems like a pretty easy reclamation, but nothing really to do with it. Can use either the front half of Brazen Borrower or cycle Ketria Triumph, and that's it. That's a pretty tame Wilderness Reclamation, if you ask me. It's more like a developing reclamation. It's not really wilderness anymore. I don't know. You get what I'm saying.
Next time, have the pun in your pocket.
Yeah, I was trying to, develop.
I've been there. Where it's just
a developed reclamation.
I'm too funny to not have a joke by the time I finish this sentence. It's just you pay for your hubris every time.
Oh, I wonder if Ichikawa is gonna go for Brazen Borrower on the Selfless Doggo, because he's afraid of a Venerated Luxodon off of 1 mana and the 4 creatures. Maybe it just goes to bounce a token, though. That might actually be the play, just to slow it down. Unfortunately, though, for him, Horie does have the Venerated Luxodon and the land, so he's going to be able to play it no matter what. Just won't be as potent.
There was a long pause in Ichikawa's turn. You got to know that he's been thinking about how to spend this petty theft. The Knight is good, though.
Now, here you're seeing the Glut on black mana, which is why I was suggesting maybe playing the Enforcer last turn over the Raise the Alarm. But here we're still getting a pretty darn good Venerated Luxodon, so it's not like it matters too much.
Giant Elephant Cleric pumps the team.
Now we're going to see this deck list. Sorry, go ahead.
Cycle of the Ketria Triumph.
I'm looking over this deck list for game 1 here for Yuki Ichikawa. It looks like his deck has no sweepers of any kind. No, they're all in the sideboard. 2 Deafening Clarion. We see the occasional Storm's Wrath. We see the occasional Solar Flare. None of that in the main deck here. It's going to be really tough sledding.
So without sweepers, what is the plan when your opponent goes this wide?
I mean, not a lot, and I think that's really what Mike Jacobs was really trying to capitalize on in the Players Tour. Last week, and then the top 8 this past or yesterday, excuse me.
There's another bounce spell off the top. You see Teferi Time Rattler showed up. Actually bounced the Loxodon. I suppose if you're convoking, you're not attacking.
Yeah, just trying to buy enough time to go for a lethal expansion explosion at some point. I don't think there's any real plan otherwise. The deck isn't this version is really set up to fight the mirrors and stuff. Doesn't really have a whole lot of tools in the way of cleaning up a host of creatures. I mean, there's a Brazen Bar, an Aether Gust, and then 4 Teferi Time Raveler, and that's like all of the creature interaction basically, other than just like blocking with Shark Typhoon or Euro.
See an uncastable Judith coming off the top for Horie. Just gonna deploy that General's Enforcer. Now considering another pump with the Loxodon. Well, can poke everything but Knight of the Ebon Legion, and it actually gets tagged by Mystical Dispute. I'm kind of interested in your thoughts here. Was Horie maybe incentivized to just attack and just have the battlefield be what it is?
I think so. There's a lot of damage here, and missing out on this attack is pretty brutal. With that said, you do want to just like push the advantage when you have it. And with like the open deck list, I think that Horie just wants to end the game as quickly as they can, and maybe the pump from Venerate Luxon was just the best choice there. But definitely just wants to draw like an untapped black or red source for the Judith here. These two planes are just looking pretty awkward, honestly.
Mm-hmm. See more cycling from Ichikawa, some mana floating. You see a growth spiral being cast at the end step. Hallowed Fountain. So now the hand is Ether Gust and Brazen Borrower. Gust will be a pretty nice one if that Judith is ever cast. Winota off the top, hand really clunky on Horie's side of things.
Yeah,
and now we see the team just attack. Yeah, this looks good to me.
Yeah, the jig is up, and I think that Toru just trying to close the game before anything really bad happens. With so much mana, though, last turn, Yuki didn't go for, like, an expansion explosion. So you have to assume that, like, at the very least, like, most of the shields are down.
Giganta going to be added to the hand, and now we see Petty Theft on the Night of the Eben Legion. And that means that there's only 8 power on the table, where Ichikawa is at 9, flashing in Brazen Borrower, and a Shark Typhoon off the top. That could be something.
Oh, that can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. This is actually lethal. If there's no peel, from Toru to kill next turn, this Shark Typhoon is a 12/12 plus the Brazen Bar is literally the perfect amount to get through. If no land is drawn from Toru Horie next turn.
Now the question is, does Ichikawa go for it, or is there leading up the Gust?
That's what he's trying to figure out right now. I mean, what can you beat? Like, if you don't cycle the Shark Typhoon, you're just losing to the 8 power that's in play, right? I guess you could maybe just do it for 10, block like one of the creatures and go to 3, but then you're just like still dead next turn if you don't draw anything. You know, like it seems like a pretty lackluster spot to just sit back on a not quite lethal Shark Typhoon. And if like the top 2 cards of his deck are just lands and you just lose the game, like how bad would you feel if you could just go for it, you know?
Right. Yeah, especially because Shark Typhoon, this is a draw 1. We're not talking about the non-lethal expansion explosion. It's just less likely that you chain things from here.
Wow, I think so. The way that Yuki actually played this sequence, Shark Typhoon being an out is just so wild to me. You know, like taking as much damage as you can before using the Brazen Borrower, bouncing just the right creature so that you kind of leave yourself at 1. And I'm pretty sure he's going to go for it. Just make 15 power with the flyers. Hope your opponent has absolute nothing. Oh, is he going to hold up 2 mana?
This is deliberate tapping here. We see QQ into tap, 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 tap.
Oh, I hate it so much. But, you know, it's Reclamation. I'm sure he's going to draw something cool, like just like a Euro is just enough, you know, like.
Growth Spiral, less so. Temple of Silence off the top, so we are seeing that 12/12 Shark would have been good.
Yeah, but you can't know that for sure, you know. And if any untapped land probably means Winota and probably means you die. So, like, holding up the Ether Gust makes some sense. The problem is, like, what are your outs? You know, like next turn, there's a very specific set of cards that Yuki Ichikawa can draw to win the game next turn, and there's not very many, and there aren't that many that like keep him alive either. It's just basically Euro, maybe a Teferi chain into something else.
Yeah, the big one, of course, is lethal expansion explosion. That's exactly what he wants, and then from there, it's a lot tougher to figure out. Uro, sort of the next best thing. But yeah, no sweepers, like you said.
What an interesting game. That was such a cool decision that Yuki had to make. And it's so interesting. Like, it's very obvious that there's like 2 decisions, right? It's either hold up Gust or go for the kill. And like, there's such diminishing returns from both sides, and also just like immediate punishes for every decision. It feels like one of those decisions, like no matter what you choose, the universe is going to go the other way, you know?
Yeah, there's just like multiple red spells that the Gust checked that would have been lethal if they were castable this turn. In fact, multiple are in Horie's hand.
Right. Oh, man.
Spiral into Triome. That's got to be cycled, as Reclamation off the top is no help.
No, that's it. That's the game
Temple,
right there.
no good.
Oh, you really do hate to see it. And then no matter what happens, Horie has to go for it, right? Because you're just dead to the Flyers. So Ichikawa actually put him in a situation where he literally cannot bluff no matter what he does. He has to play something, and he has to attack for lethal because there's just lethal sitting in play on the other side.
Yep.
It's so brutal. I am almost always in the camp of shove when you're behind, and Yuki Ichikawa was so far behind earlier that I think just going for the 12-12 was the play. And he chose to go for the safer play with Ether Gust, but like you just have to remember that you just like have trouble beating an army of small creatures. You just don't have the time to draw into something. And I said, oh, he has 2 draws out. He had the Shark Typhoon in the draw step. And lo and behold, drew Temple Guard and Wilderness Reclamation, and now the game's over. It's just rough. It's just really rough.
You see Horie some pause here, making sure that he doesn't just give this one away. You see Winota now pre-combat. That's just good. It's kind of funny letting this resolve because you open up, I guess, the possibility of 5 creatures. Maybe for some reason Horie locks it onto the team.
It's actually a little more sinister than that. He let it resolve to let him know that he might have a play on Arena if you have like untapped mana and a card in hand you can cast. So like he could take full control once the Winota is in play, cast Ether Gust, and it'll like give him priority back during the main phase, and then you have to guess whether or not he has another removal spell. But like I said, it was like face up. It's irrelevant.
Right. Super interesting game. 2 very big decisions. So there was the turn where Horie attempted the second Loxodon Convoke, and that got disputed. There was a little bit of concern that might have been not aggressive enough.
Right.
And Ichikawa did have the window to make the big shark, but then we saw the not quite big enough shark. So it kind of tipped back and forth. Very interesting game there. Yeah,
just couldn't quite drop the hammer. Chose to go for the lighter touch and got punished for it. But, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Like, if he makes the other decision, if he goes for the 12-12 shark and then then his opponent goes like land Judith or land Winota and you just die, then everyone's like, oh yeah, obviously you should hold up for Ether Gust. There's just like too many combos that kill you. And it doesn't matter which decision you make. You're going to be wrong about half the time. Right. And like whichever one works out, like that's the one that everyone who's watching is going to be like, oh yeah, that's definitely the one you should have went for.
It's honestly worse to know what happened.
Yeah, I wish we could have just let him choose and then turn the game off.
Cut away. Yeah, this is what he did. He either won or he didn't. That's an interesting thought exercise. But yeah, it's really easy if you're not great at thinking about that sort of thing, or you don't care to actually do your homework, to just say whatever worked out is how it was supposed to be played.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one of the things I love most about playing auto battlers. I don't know how much you're into like auto chess and things like that, but like it feels a lot like drafting, and then you don't have to play the games. You just basically compare like each other's decks, and then you just let like a robot play the game for you. It's awesome, love it.
Yes, we do that sometimes when we cube draft, where no one's feeling playing, and you just put your deck face up, and whoever's deck is cooler, their team wins.
Yeah, they're just like, okay, well, I have this bomb. Can you beat it? It's just like, well, I do have this 2-card combo that kills it. And you're just like, okay, well, like, can we just vote on whose deck's better instead of whatever this is?
Yep. Ooh, you don't see this too often. Ichikawa kept a 1-lander on a 6-card hand, found the second land. See Stomp as an available play. It'll be pretty important to find more lands off the top.
But trying to go Bone Crusher Giant on the Selfless Doggo, not exactly ideal because I'm pretty sure it can just I guess it has to have a different target.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's nice. Being able to make sure you get the adventure on Bone Crusher Giant when you've mulliganed to 5 is pretty important.
Another stomp. So that's a castable, but it's not a land.
Yeah, I think this just has to be a main phase stomp too. You want to try to contain Venerary Luxon as much as possible, and there's no reason to bluff. Like, you're just gonna cast it at some point anyway.
And Horie, not with the most aggressive draw. I see raise the alarm. I guess that changes now with this Loxodon up the top. Now this hand looks incredible.
You rang. Oh man, you just ate those words immediately.
Raise the alarm.
Yeah,
I was trying
raise...
to make it seem interesting despite Ichikawa missing the land drop, but this Loxodon looks real nice.
Yeah, and he's actually going to go for a 4-point Luxodon instead of a full 5, it looks like.
So
get in that 1 point.
This puts Ichikawa to 18. There is 13 power on the table. All right, well, Ichikawa misses the land.
Yeah.
Horie gonna go 2-0 over Ichikawa. So this Marta Winota deck seems to largely be making the statement, I want to get paired against Floor Color Reclamation. That kind of is why we saw that deck popping up this weekend and got the pairing and beat one of the world's best, took down Ichikawa.
Yeah, after looking at the results from the Player Store final, one of the things that I personally would have done with Wilderness Reclamation is kind of move back towards being a little more interactive against the creature decks. You know, we see Yuki Ichikawa going full blast in the other direction. No sweepers, very little removal. All the things that you would normally consider removal are just bounce effects. You know, we have Ether Gust, Brazen Borrower, Teferi Time Raveler. There's no Storm's Wrath, there's no Flame Sweeps, there's no Scorching Dragonfire, there's nothing like that. It's all Dovin's Veto, Mystical Dispute, Teferi Time Raveler, and when you add that 4th color into the deck, you really start to lose like a lot of the utility cards because you're just adding in these like heavy hitters like Teferi Time Raveler.
Yeah, there's even very little in terms of sweepers in the sideboard. Just a couple Deafening Clarions, and then those 4 Bone Crusher Giants that we saw. And I mean, the big story of Game 2 is Ichikawa just missing land drops, but the stomps were only minimally effective even still.
Yeah, but